Fox News alert on new details coming to light behind bombshell allegations that the IRS's targeting of conservative groups was being managed by the bosses in Washington. We've heard inklings of this, we heard anecdotal evidence of this, and now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty about why congressional investigators now say they believe they have proof that it is true. Welcome to America Live, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. We're just hours away right now from a hearing on Capitol Hill with IRS Acting Commissioner Daniel Werfel and Treasury Inspector General J. Russell George. He's the guy who did the IG's report. They will likely be asked about who has been punished in this scandal and who really is to blame. How can we be so far into this and not have those answers? I mean, you listened to the acting commissioner testify, same as I did. Stephen Miller, all about how, I don't know, and I can't name names, and maybe I'll do it off camera. Well, we'll look forward to that, Mr. Miller. The questions come as Congressman Darrell Issa releases interviews done on a bipartisan basis by his committee's investigators with IRS employees caught up in this scandal. All right, now that's important because the other side is suggesting that this is just a partisan witch hunt and so on at this point, and that yet these are bipartisan interviews. And these interviews, according to the transcripts released, suggest that the marching orders did, in fact, come straight from our nation's capital. Chris Steyer-Walt is our Fox News digital politics editor and host of Power Play on FoxNews.com Live. Chris, welcome. So, as I say, we've had people on the show. We had a Cincinnati reporter and anchor. They've been doing great work out of our Fox affiliate in Cincy, talking about how this was linked to Washington. And they've talked to actual IRS employees in Cincinnati who have said that. But this is the first we've seen it go up to the congressional investigation level, where now you have ICE's committee releasing these partial transcripts. They talked to two employees out of Cincinnati, one current, one sounds like recently departed from that office, who placed the blame squarely on Washington. And so where does that get us?
Well, that gets us to the boomerang moment where for so long people have been pitching it down to Cincinnati. Those rogue agents, those people, those bad actors were either ignorant of the law or acting in a bad faith on their own part. Certainly, we didn't know because in this agency of 100,000 people with these vasty fields of bureaucrats, how can we possibly know? Now those folks over whom the bus has been backed say, wait a minute. Before you get too carried away, Mr. Greyhound driver, how about this? How about, I said this will cause a problem. Don't do this because this will look political. And the word came back, doesn't matter. Go ahead. Washington wants these. They want these done. We better get them done and send them on their way.
All right, so let's just take a look at a couple of them. This is from the first full screen exchange that we have teed up. Question. In early 2010, was there a time when you became aware of applications that referenced Tea Party or other conservative groups? Answer. In March of 2010, I was made aware. Move on. Question. Okay. Now, was there a point around this time period when your supervisor asked you to do a search for similar applications? Yes. Keep going because we're getting to it. Question. Did your supervisor give you any indication of the need for the search, any more context? Answer. He told me that Washington, D.C. wanted some cases. Keep going. So as of April 2010, these 40 cases were held at that moment in your group. Is that right? Yes, some were. How many were held there? Less than 40. Some went to Washington. How many went to Washington? I sent 7. So that's from one. That's from one guy telling these folks D.C. wanted some cases. And then they later talked to a supervisory employee, somebody who was higher up the line, who testified specifically that he did not think this was right. He thought it was inappropriate. He didn't want to be some rogue employee who later got blamed for this. And that fed into apparently his decision to leave the agency. And there was a specific question later asked, was specific scrutiny given to the Tea Party applications, those directions emanated from Washington? Is that right? And the answer was, I believe so.
Yeah. And so the idea now is that, you know, when you have the people who were the designated scapegoats say, no scapegoating for me, thank you. I'm going to go my own way on this one. When you have that happening, then it becomes clear and clear. And we sort of knew this all along, but now we're starting to get closer to the actual testimony that says, no, back in Washington, back in Washington, back in Washington. Then when you get back in Washington, things start to get nervous making for the administration. You have the former commissioners, many authorized visits to the White House campus, a closer relationship between that IRS director and maybe any administration in the past. You have Lois Lerner, she of the Fifth Taking, and their Democratic associations and all of that stuff, and it gets one step closer into the crucial zone here. And the crucial zone is the orbit of the House of Obama. Political, White House, administrative, anything. All we're looking for now are the points where those lines cross, where people that might have been part of directing, authorizing, or allowing this to go forward, where do their paths cross with senior Obama officials? That's where this is going.
This whole thing led to this dust-up on the Sunday talk shows with Darrell Issa, whose committee, among others. I mean, it's not just, this is not, the administration now, some want to pan this off on Issa. Oh, he's this, he loves to investigate things. He's this partisan guy. And that may or may not be true about Darrell Issa, but it's not just Darrell Issa. I mean, the House Ways and Means Committee is equally unhappy with the IRS, and they are not accused normally of behaving in that manner, among other committees. And so there are at least 3, maybe 4 committees now investigating this in Capitol Hill. In any event, they went after Issa, White House senior advisor, this weekend, and in a big way, because he went on the Sunday talk shows and referred to Jay Carney as a, quote, paid liar. And then we saw everybody from Robert Gibbs, who came out and said he's got to apologize to him. It was over Carney's talking about how this was a Cincinnati rogue agent thing, this IRS thing. Issa comes out and said he's a paid liar. Now you have Robert Gibbs saying, Issa, if you've got the goods, let's see them. Well, now we have transcripts. And you have David Plouffe. I mean, David Plouffe is very tight with the president, coming out and talking about how Darrell Issa is an arsonist and what's the other thing he accused him of? Insurance fraud, arson, what's the third?
1972 arrest,
okay.
A youthful indiscretion, yes.
So 40-year-old charges that were never substantiated, what does it tell you?
It tells me that they're freaking out, and they need to stop doing that if they want to get through this. Yes, they would like to turn Darrell Issa into Ken Starr, or probably like to turn him into Torquemada, that evil, obsessive, Queeg-like character. And maybe they can try that, but the truth is, this is not about the sex life of anybody. This is not about anything like that. This is about an abuse by the least trusted government, the least liked anyway, government agency, the IRS, taking shots at the president's political opponents. It's not going to do, it won't wash to talk about Darrell Issa, what Darrell Issa was doing in 1972, and it tells me that the anger stems from fear. Sure, Issa is not an ideal spokesman sometimes for the Republicans when he uses hot words like liar. That's not a good thing to do, but this is not going to cut it. They're going to need more than just character assassination.
Yeah, and then when you respond in kind, it doesn't elevate your own argument. We're going to talk about that and where this has gone, how ugly this has now gotten with our panel coming up. Chris, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tomorrow, the House Ways and Means Committee, I just mentioned them, has called a hearing with several of the groups specifically targeted by the IRS. So we invited several of those groups to come on this broadcast with a preview for you today. And we will share those experiences for you before these witnesses testify in just a bit right here.